are back. The Future Agent Podcast is back. We took a hiatus.
It's been a minute.
We tend to do this just a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to have to get used to this cadence. We've been going live and like kind of hustling through. We got a little bit more time now. We got to slow down a little bit.
We do.
Got to chill. We need a new intro video.
I
noticed that. Tingy.
Not bad though.
Tingy. We need a new intro video. Hook it up. Hey, we appreciate the time that people have given us. It's been a little while, but we are back. Like we said, been working on some stuff. We're excited.
Big stuff.
The builder stuff is exciting.
Yes, and today's topic fits in perfectly with that, so I'm excited about it.
Today's topic fits perfectly into that. And don't let me forget what happened during the meeting with this last builder that we landed.
Yeah.
Because it was incredibly telling of exactly what we're here to talk about today. And I think that this is what every single agent, with the exception of a very select few, are missing. And this is something that's bigger when we get into the topic of building a personal brand. I think there's so many people that just look at that as posting a picture on Instagram. And it's so much deeper than that. But to me, this is super exciting because this is when the job gets fun, is when you figure this portion out. Before that, you gotta grind. Before that, this is a beast to get into.
No doubt.
Once you establish that brand though, that's when the fun starts.
No doubt. And it's the sexy term. It's the buzzword that everybody talks about: branding, personal brand. How do I start my personal brand? And I was posting on Threads just the other day, which Threads is fire, by the way.
Love Threads.
Threads is fire. Agents, if you're not on Threads, go on Threads. It is absolute fire. But this concept around strategy, when you talk about strategy, the best definition that I've learned about strategy is just prioritization. Strategy is just a fancy word for what are you going to prioritize. And I've had multiple conversations over the last 7 to 10 days with some of our newer agents around this topic, around what are you going to focus on, who are you talking to, why are you talking to them, and just being ultra specific. Because, and we're going to get into this, but no matter how you chunk up your community, no matter how you break it down, there's 50 deals to be had within any demographic in any group. Your job is not to be vanilla ice cream. Some people they're just gonna like mint chocolate chip Rocky Road with gummy bears. If that's you, the question today is, how do you become that for the people that are gonna find that attractive?
Well, I think that that's what makes developing a personal brand so difficult at times, is that it is kind of the first time in your real estate business where you are going to draw a clear line in the sand and say, I'm not working with you anymore. Which is such a role reversal from how you run stuff in your first 18, 24, 36 months. Those first 36 months, all you can think of is getting the next deal, and you don't care how far you have to drive. You don't care what price point it's in. You're the expert of every price point in every marketplace, and anybody would be dumb not to use you. But for the first time ever, you have to draw a line in the sand and say, I am okay with people not working with me based on who my personal brand is going to be. Now, the opposite side of that, on this side, why would you do that, is what someone's going to ask. It's because on this side, this is where you get to call your shot. This is where you get to work with the 40 or 50 people a year that are excited to work with you. That's when you're getting the come list me calls instead of the, hey, do you want to come and interview for my listing? That side, when you actually are able to step away from a certain group of people that you don't want to work with anymore and focus with people that feed you, that's this job that's so much fun. But so many agents don't get to that point. Why do you think that is?
Because it's scary. It's scary. I mean, you absolutely feel like you're leaving money on the table. You've got someone that wants you to list a piece of land that's 3 hours away from where you're at. And so what agents do is all of a sudden we start to calculate commission. We start to calculate commission. Or, hey, come list my condo that is in North Logan. That's a 2-hour drive from here. We start to count dollars. So I think that it doesn't help us, because now we're gonna have to drive all the way to North Logan every week to do an open house or whatever it is. But also, and you always talk about this is a hyper local business. So it doesn't even serve the seller to list with you. They want someone that is hyper local to North Logan or whatever the city is, that understands that demographic and understands how to sell there. So it's this idea of, how can I make this job as easy as possible for myself, even from a time perspective? If you're only selling in your neighborhood and there are 30, 40, 50, 60 deals to be had there, which there absolutely are, by the way, it makes it easier on you. It makes it easier to communicate with people, to be present, to really get into the weeds of what does your community need, what are the stats, what works, what doesn't work. And it allows you to give a higher level of service because you're very clear on, as you said, who you're talking to and who you're not.
Yeah, I think what this comes down to is that if you look at it, developing the personal brand is going to do a couple of things. And you were actually posting on Threads about this over the weekend. You hear so many agents talking about how saturated the market is with real estate agent content, and your response was what?
It's only saturated if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know who you're talking about. Because that's what everybody does. Everybody's vanilla ice cream. So if I want to be vanilla ice cream, yeah, it's hella saturated. But I was talking to Mosiah, one of our agents, who speaks Portuguese. I'm like, bro, there is no Portuguese agent in Utah County. Like that's your unique advantage. If you can lean into that, now the Portuguese realtor market is not saturated. But if you're just trying to be everything to everybody, hell yeah, it feels saturated.
Well, and I think too, agents, because they follow so many other real estate agents, all they see is real estate agents posting content. So in their minds, they're thinking, what? Holy crap, every single agent is doing content. They're not. They are not. And the amount of agents that are actually successfully doing content on a regular level and are actually decent at it are few and far between. The majority of them are posting a closed sign in front of a title company saying just closed, holding a key. It's the biggest stereotype in this industry right now, I think, from a content perspective. So this is a way for you to stand out. This is a way for you to be different. The way that you do that is by clearly articulating who you are and what you're about. So I want to go through this with you. How have you kind of, because you're 13 years in, this is something that you're constantly working on. The most listings you had before you joined the team was 4 at once. This year you've had multiple peaks where you're at 13, 14, 15, 16 listings. What have you done to really dive in deep with your target market and start to have a personal brand?
Yeah, so I like...
Well, let's back up. Sorry. Yeah. When did it start for you, would you say?
So I was actually lucky because the first team that I ever worked with, it was highly segmented. So it was Latino buyers. So I very, very early on understood we didn't do listings back then. It was very rare that we got a listing. So I was just a showing agent for Latino buyers. Now, it was all over the place, but I knew that it was just Latino buyers. So these things evolve over time. For example, in 2024, my daughter was born. And so I didn't want to be driving around doing showings everywhere. So I realized I want to be a little bit more of a listing agent. And so once you have that clear, you put certain things into place. And now, like you said, instead of the peak having 4 listings at a time, we had 15 at once. But it's got to be conscious. So when you sit down to craft a personal brand, here's what I did. It can be based on a number of different things. I think the easiest one for me was language. So I, like Mosiah, realized that there was less competition among Spanish-speaking agents than just agents in general. So number one, it can be based on language. Number two, it can be based on location. Where do you want to work? In a certain county, in a certain city? Where would you want to transact? That's another very easy way to segment yourself. Another one can be things like interest. For example, Renee, one of our agents, he loves tacos. So what is he going to do? He's going to go out to every single taco shop and do a giveaway, make content, get to know the owners, get to know the workers. And just on our very first one this Saturday, we show up, we make the content, we're having lunch, it's great. The manager had a real estate questions. So his is an interest-based segmentation that can also work. So keep it very simple. Language, location, interest-based. There's a lot of ways to slice this pie.
I would even go the opposite. I think the way I usually approach it is the opposite. And I think if you're an agent that has a decent database, you're an agent that's closed a handful of deals, work backwards. Go back through your last 10 closings and look at it and say, okay, statistically speaking, 7 of the people on this list, you were grateful you got a paycheck at the end of it. 3 of them, though, at the end of it, you got a paycheck and you're like, damn, I got paid to work with these people. Who are those 3 people? Identify them. Where do they shop? How do they spend their time? What caused them to move? Were they coming from a rental into a buy? Was this their first time buy? Go through and break down and kind of create 3 avatars of people and then start to ask yourself, how can I find more people like avatar A? How can I find more of them? How can I get in front of them more often? And then how can I start converting them at a higher rate? That's what I want to focus on with all of my agents as they start to focus on this hyper-local area. And there's 2 ways to evaluate it. You can do it by the numbers. So for me, when I was at Edge, my demographic was a townhome. Why? Because I could sell 3 townhomes for a total of $1.5 million in the same amount of time it took me to sell 1 single-family house at $750,000. So did I go after 750? No, I went after the one that I knew I could mass produce and get in front of more often. Who are they? How do you get in front of them more often? And then how do you convert? How do you get in front of them better is you start breaking it down and creating content for them.
But what you just said is brilliant and I think underrated. You went for a lower price point.
Yeah.
Most agents will never do that.
No.
Like the dream
No.
is luxury real estate. I want to sell $2 million, $3 million properties. But in your case, break that down a little bit more, because I really believe that mindset is incredibly rare, where you would say, instead of trying to sell $800,000 homes, I'm going to focus on 400 to 450 because I think I can do better there.
Yeah, I just started tracking the time that it took me on one transaction. So getting them under contract was a portion of it. I could usually get three, like on a townhome, I could usually get them under contract within about 45 to 60 minutes of meeting them. On a single family, when you're having to go walk a lot, you're having to pick a floor plan, you're having to pick options, upgrades, everything like that. Price it out ahead of time. Make sure that it is completely within their budget before we send them to the design studio. It just took so much time to get the higher price point under contract. And when I looked at it, I said, okay, I can sell twice as much in half as much time. In half as much time, I can sell twice as much. So for me, it was just the natural progression. I think part of it too was I fit into the demographic of people that were buying townhomes. I was a 25 to a 27-year-old kid that had just started a family and was currently living in the exact product that I was trying to tell people. So that's why you got to track how much time it also takes to get people under contract. That's kind of the first way that I always evaluated it. And then the second for me was energetically. I do believe that not enough agents pay attention to this, but if you are not picking people that you energetically resonate with, you're missing out on a really cool opportunity within this job.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, again, we just have to resist that shiny object syndrome. We have to resist trying to be a luxury agent day one. It could be that your segmentation starting out is mobile homes in your town at $150,000 price point, or condos. You don't have to be the luxury agent. You're probably not going to be the luxury agent day one. So it's not letting that make you feel insecure. I guarantee you, when you were slinging these townhomes, if there was another dude that was slinging single family, you didn't feel small next to that guy.
Y'all could say whatever you wanted to me. I don't care how many multi-million-dollar houses you were selling. If we're here to get paid, I was okay. Like that was and I think that that's why, have you ever once heard me stress with our agents that we're going to track the dollar amount of the purchase price? What do I always stress? The transaction count. Why? Because I can control the transaction count. I can't control the dollar amount of those said transactions as easily. So we have agents that are like, well, I want to sell 15 million. Okay, do you want to do 30 deals next year? Oh, I hadn't thought about it. No, we're going to think about it, because going and attacking 30 deals is way easier than attacking 15 million, in my professional opinion.
I agree. So if we take this in pieces, we're talking about who do I want to service? Great. The next piece to that is, where do I find them? And here's where I think that the personal branding thing comes more into play, because it's so easy to drown in this pool of social media where you want to talk to everybody everywhere. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that you're also very good at this. Where do you find these people once you've identified who they are?
So I got asked this over the weekend. They asked me how we've grown the team. And I said, social media. And they said, okay, so like, what are you doing? Are you like DMing agents every day? I'm like, no. They're like, okay, so what are you doing? I'm just posting. And then people will respond. And they said, okay, you have to explain that to me. And I think it's the same. My demographic right now is trying to bring real estate agents to the team, as well as land some builders. So those are two very specific demographics that I have, and all of my content will fit into one of those two strategies. And my opinion is that we should be documenting rather than creating. We don't create content. You and I are not creating content right now. We're just documenting the same stuff that we're talking to our team about every day. So for me, it's about documenting what I'm doing, putting out what it's like to, let's take the agent example. I want you to know what it feels like to work at the Perry Group before you show up to a meeting. I want you to hear some of the stuff that I'm going to say. And if it doesn't resonate with you, don't come to a meeting, because it's not going to get any better. So I want you to know what it's like to work with me, who I am as a person. I want you to identify me and say, that's somebody that I want to go and listen to and potentially work with. Agents need to be approaching it the exact same way. This is where this becomes an attraction-based prospecting method. And it's different than the reactive-based prospecting methods that you have to start with in the industry, which is your cold calling, your door knocking, your open houses. So for me, this is when you're shifting. We talked about that line. That's probably how I would describe that line, is your marketing is shifting from reaction to action, or to attraction-based. And for us, I am a big proponent of just putting everything out there, saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, this is what it's like to work with me. If that resonates with you, hit the DMs. That's it.
That's it.
And agents need to approach it the same way.
The exact same way. But I think what I want to add to that is be selective on the platforms. Like, agents, do a little bit of research on who is on said platform. Once you've identified the individual, where are they? It doesn't necessarily have to be Instagram.
Well, you and I talk about this all the time because the majority of agents have found me through Instagram.
Right.
I have not been very proactive on Facebook because I feel like you and I argued about this for the first 9 months of the year till I started trying it. But when I asked you, why do you love Facebook? You replied with what?
Because that's where my people are.
And your people are who?
Latinos between the ages of 45 and 60.
See how quick that is? It's right there. If you can't answer that question in the same speed to answer, you're going to keep just posting random stuff on social media that's not going to push you anywhere.
And so all of a sudden, agents, if you're confused, you're like, man, I keep posting, but nothing works. There are some of these unconventional methods. If I'm being completely honest, what over indexes for me is Facebook and WhatsApp stories. So you might
Which
look
I
at
thought was a
something and be like,
scam.
what the hell
I thought
is
that was a
WhatsApp
scam.
story?
It was Renee brought it up to me. He's like, hey, I just got this lead off of WhatsApp.
Because I told Renee, I'm like,
and
bro,
I'm like, dude, no, that's a scam. He's like, I don't think it is. I'm like, dude, 100%. He's a newer agent. I was like, this is a scam. He's like, it was from a story. I was like,
WhatsApp has stories.
what?
So, but again, because a lot of people in my demographic, in the Latino community, use WhatsApp. Why do they use WhatsApp? Because they can communicate with their family members back home without having to have these extra plans or long distance. WhatsApp allows them to make a phone call to Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Mexico. So a lot of individuals in my Latino community have WhatsApp, and that's one of their primary methods of communication. So again, the punchline is don't judge the medium. It doesn't matter how you reach them. If you're trying to look for professionals that are in the solar industry, maybe it's going to be LinkedIn. If you're trying to find college kids that are going to buy entry-level condos because you represent a builder, it's going to be TikTok. But if you don't do the homework to try to identify who am I talking to, where are they found, what kind of content do they resonate with, that's where you're just throwing spaghetti up against the wall, praying something sticks, and you essentially have to get lucky in order to transact. And Sharon says this all the time. Luck is the worst business model. If you have to get lucky to get a DM, you will never scale.
So let's transition just a little bit because I think that we've hammered how to find them, how to build out that personal brand, how to start coming up with the strategy. I want to talk about this from a lead generation perspective because to me, why I think social media, why I've pushed it since day one in this office, I think that social media is incredible because it's the only form of marketing that keeps working even after you're done. What I mean by that is if you're knocking doors, the second that you stop knocking, what happens? The leads stop flowing. The second that you're done cold calling for the day, the leads stop flowing. The second that you don't throw an open house over the weekend, the leads stop flowing. But I am about to go out of town for 4 days. This way I don't have to do I don't have to do anything on social media, and I will still continue to get views even if I don't post for 4 days because of how consistently I've been posting. It is the only marketing that will continue to work for you even when you're not paying attention. We did a video 4 months ago, had an agent just comment on it last week, was in team meeting on Friday, and when she passes her test, she's joining in January. From a video we posted 4 months ago. Social media to me is the best lead gen and CRM that exists for real estate agents. If somebody responds to a DM, if somebody swipes up on something that you post, if somebody comments on something that you post, they are going to see your stuff so frequently that you are going to just naturally become the household brand in their family. But to you, because I think that you and I agree on this, what do you think makes it such an effective lead gen strategy?
So I think it's top of mind dynamics. It's top of mind dynamics. And here's where, once you understand this, trust me, once you understand this, the vanity metrics cease to matter. It doesn't matter, you guys. Here's what I mean by that. If you make a post and you want to get fancy and you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to artificially make myself an influencer. I'm going to go out and buy 25,000 views on an auto whatever service thing that you're going to do. 25,000 views from Qatar don't serve you, my friend. You're not fooling anybody, and you're not going to sell shit. What matters is people that are in your community, people that could actually transact with you. And here's the kicker that I found. There's a lot of lurkers on social media. So many lurkers. I've seen this on Facebook. If you go on my Facebook, there's not a ton of engagement. There's just not. But I get DMs weekly with questions. I want to do this. I want to do that. Why? Because regardless of if someone clicks on it, if they like it, if they comment, they saw it and they can't unsee it. So as they're scrolling, as they're doom scrolling like we all do, it's these perceptions. Oh, Boo's there. Keep going. They might not watch every single video. You don't even need them to watch every single video. That's why I think that it's so effective. Because they can see you every single day. You can't call a prospect every day. It's annoying as hell. You can't door knock every single day. You can't send them a mailer every single day. But they can see you in their feed daily. They will choose what to consume or not, but they saw you. And the next time that there's a real estate conversation in the car, at dinner, at Thanksgiving, at whatever it is, they saw you this morning and yesterday and the day before, and it's fresh and it's your name that pops up. So forget about the vanity metrics. A lot of people that consume you, they're not going to see it. They're not going to like, they're not going to comment, but they are going to see it, and that's all you should care about.
I think one of the most toxic vanity metrics is the follower count. There are so many agents, so many coaches, all sorts of people saying that your follower count needs to be X. I have never once, and I never will, stress what my follower count is to any of my agents. I don't care if you have 100,000 followers from Qatar. They're not buying anything from you.
Buying anything.
So what is the number that a real estate agent needs? The metrics that I would like for a lot of agents to run off is that if you have 1,000 followers, statistically speaking, they are going to move every 3 to 5 years. So statistically speaking, 200 of those people a year are going to be moving. If they are all within your hyper-local area, you have a really good shot. You don't need that many people in this Instagram database, this follower database if you want. You don't need 10,000 followers to find 30 transactions. If there are really 200 transactions available in your marketplace and there's no go-to person in that marketplace, you have to convert at a 10% clip to sell 20 houses a year? The numbers are not these staggering numbers. So you will never hear me stress follower count because it doesn't matter. I don't have very many followers compared to a lot of team leads and coaches in the industry. We regularly are producing agents from our social media though. Why? Because the followers that we have are all, for the most part, real estate agents, the majority of them being in Utah, and the majority of them already knowing who I am and what I'm about.
No doubt. So remember, you don't need 1 million views, you need 50 customers. That's the writer downer. You don't need 1 million views, you need 50 customers a year. If you can do that, you're in the top 1% on planet Earth as real estate agents. And I think that is a massive advantage that our industry has because, let's just call it what it is, we're very expensive. You're expensive. If you sell cups and you make 3 cents a cup, how many cups do you have to sell to make 10 grand a year? Thousands on thousands on thousands. Not so for us. We need 30, 40, 50 consistent customers to make 6 figures, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. It's within reach with less than 100 clients. That to me is incredibly encouraging because again, it allows for me to scale down and know exactly who I'm talking to. So forget about the vanity metrics. You don't need 1 million followers. You need 50 customers.
I think the one of the things that you've taught me too is when you broke it down into real life scenarios, and that has to do with views, meaning that if I have a view that gets 850 views, I might feel down about that. But then if I was to, and this was your analogy, if all of a sudden you were putting me on stage at TEDx in Provo and I had 850 people watching me,
that's so many people.
I would be terrified.
So many
I
people.
would be freaked out. But all of a sudden when it's a video, I'm like, it kind of sucked.
That one bombed.
850 people,
That's a lot
if
of
I was
people.
speaking to them live, I would be terrified. If I'm on stage, my mic would be shaking, knees weak, arms heavy, the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
300 people is so many people to be watching your stuff. We just don't feel like that.
Yeah, Google it. Google it. Show me 500 people. It's a massive crowd, you guys. And the last thing I'll say on follower count, I have a very real example of this because I own a boxing promotional company. So we are putting on an event here local. It's a brand new account. It has like 200 followers. But when you look at the analytics, we have reached 30,000 local accounts in the last 30 days with under 300 followers. And when you look at the analytics, what cities? Orem, Utah. What states? Utah. That's what matters. That's what matters. So less than 300 followers, over 30,000 accounts reached in the last 30 days. That's the metric that you want to look at, not the follower count.
Okay, so let's say that at this point, I mean, we're 20-something minutes in. Let's say that we've sold people now on the idea of, okay, I need to build a brand. And this is where I think so many brokerages, so many teams stop the conversation. They sit there and they hammer agents in during team meeting. Tony, you got to post on social media. I think everybody in the room right now and every brokerage is sitting there saying, I know.
And?
Teach me how to do it.
Exactly.
So let's get into the teach me how to do it portion. This is where I think that we can give a lot of insight. Before I do that, I want to give one more example. Why you should do this. Just one more trying to convince you. We walked into a builder that has never built in Utah County a week ago. This is new to the Perry Group. Landing Builders is somewhat new to the Perry Group. We walked in, the CEO walked into the meeting, and she looked at me and laughed, and she goes, ha ha ha, somehow I knew this was going to end up on your desk. And it was like the greatest compliment that I have ever received. From somebody that we were trying to get business with, they looked at me and said, somehow I knew this was going to end up on your desk. That's why you do this.
That's why you do it.
That's why you do this, because that's when this job gets really, really fun. So how do you do it?
Yeah, it's not just post on social media. Again, it's being strategic. What are you going to post? Where are you going to post it? When are you going to post it? So I believe I always lean all the way on the education side, because I rather have an educational video that gets 86 views than something trendy that gets 5,000 but doesn't convert. So for me, it's lean heavy into education. Every single deal you have, every property, every inspection, there's something there. That's how I started. I would just write down every single question that any customer would ask. Buyer, seller, doesn't matter. Once I became a broker, every question that any agent would ask me, I would write it down, make a little video, pull out my phone, and just record it, answer the question. So I believe as agents in general, if you don't know what to post, lean into the education side. It's easier to do. It's not going to make you feel insecure because you don't have to get trendy or dance or look for trending audios. You can forget about all that stuff. Lean into education, because that's at the end of the day what people need. If you can become a resource and really do your homework, good programs, good communities, deal of the week, start there. Start with the educational portion and then build as you go, being very selective of which platform you use. You don't need to be everywhere all the time.
Couple of tips I'm going to give agents here with some real life application. Number one, man crush moment of the day. If you are not signed up for Listing Leads courtesy of Jimmy Mackin, you are completely missing out.
Yep.
It is the easiest resource to go and copy and put it on your Instagram story, and you will have people responding. It is literally that simple.
It's so easy.
The amount of, we started pushing it in here about a month ago, the amount of agents that have came up to me and said, hey, I have a lot of buyers interested in new construction right now. I have a lot of buyers interested in this right now. Why do they know it? Because they've taken what Jimmy has posted in listingleads.com, copied it and put it on Instagram, and it has generated them leads. That's number one I would do immediately. Number two, super easy strategy. Get your iPhone, put it horizontal, grab an agent in your office or another agent in your marketplace or your lender or your title rep or your home warranty rep.
All of them.
All of them.
One at a time.
Give them softball questions to ask you and just go back and forth for 10 minutes and have a conversation about one topic. Take that video, run it through a software called Opus.ai. If you run it through Opus, it will kick you out 6 to 10 social media clips that are really, really good. Post them and don't look back. My advice to any new agent when they're getting into social media for the very first time is to just post as often as you possibly can, and then review the analytics 90 days later. If you have been making content for your target audience, for the 45 to 65-year-old Latinos in your marketplace, then the analytics will give you what your people are wanting to see more of. It's the most underrated reason why somebody should be doing content is the amount of market research that I get on my target demographic is crazy. It helps me learn how to speak to them better. It helps me learn to communicate with them better. By forcing yourself to do it, you will get really good really quickly. It just takes time.
It does. But for me, the buzzword for 2025 has to be strategy. You have to be strategic. You have to know, and we'll end on this, why you're doing it, where you're doing it, when you're doing it. You have to be extremely, what's the correct word? I'm missing the word. You have to be intentional about it. So guys, don't be afraid. Get rid of all of those insecurities. Understand that the like count doesn't matter. Even the view count doesn't matter. Just make sure that they're in the right place and you will be just fine. But 2025 has to be all about strategy, which means knowing, like you said, who to say yes to, who to say no to, and focus. Hyper focused. With Renee, I said, hey, if this giveaway taco truck thing worked for you, go hit up every single taco joint in the entire county and do the exact same thing. With Mosiah, make only Portuguese content. Nothing else. Only Portuguese content. Go get in with the Brazilian, whatever it is, Chamber of Commerce, the Portuguese this, the Brazil. Only do that. And there are 30, 40, 50, 60 deals to be had in whatever community you choose.
And give yourself some time. This takes time. This is the big kid version of being a real estate agent. This is how you stop doing open houses every Saturday. This is how you stop having to cold call every day. This is how you stop having to go and door knock every single day in order to keep this business going. But it takes time to build it. Like you said, when you do build this, you are going to have people that tell you no. You're going to have people unfollow you and unsubscribe for what you're doing. My advice there is to lead with love and just understand that if they unfollowed you based on what you posted about interest rates, they were never going to buy a house from you. Get over it. Good news, bad news. You look like what you look like on camera in person. You sound like what you sound like on camera in person. Be okay with people telling you no. Be okay with people pushing you away, because you're not looking for those people that say no. You're looking for the people that say yes. And it takes time. I think for any agent that is just starting to really put an emphasis on this today, it will take you 12 to 18 months to start to see major wins. So it's time to reprioritize what you see as a win. A win on social media or with personal branding is not somebody DMing you after you put up a 5-bed, 4.5 bath saying, "It's the house I want, send me the contract right now." That's not a win. That's not a win in this job, but that's how so many agents are tracking it. A win when it comes to personal branding is you passing a friend that you haven't seen since high school in the grocery store, and they're saying, "Hey, I saw you on social media. It looks like you're a real estate agent." Chalk it up to a personal branding and a social media win.
And once that starts to happen, it feels so good.
Hey, the first time someone's like, "I know who you are, but you don't know who I am," I'm like,
hell yeah.
that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
Do you want me to sign your face? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing right now?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of a
Do
big
you have
deal.
a Sharpie on you? Hey guys, thank you so much for joining the pod. If you want more information on us, on our team, on our group, there's a QR code over here, right above my head somewhere. Click that. You can talk to Zach. He is an absolute professional. Any questions about Real Broker, the #1 real estate platform on earth, period, bar none. It's not even close. Talk to Zach, and we will see you next week.
And get your questions answered for the #1 brokerage by the #1 team here
go.
at Real Broker. Thank you, Zach. We love you.